like this would have occurred. But several years ago, many years ago, I was invited by some people who were in town. They wanted me to take them in there. And I was really tired. I was teaching. It was Halloween. I was doing tours. And I said, well, I'll go in, but I'm not going to open up to anything. I'm just going to go in and videotape. Well, I got one of those psychic blindside things where I walked in, and I mean, it just hit me. And this was just a residual haunting. I mean, I want people to understand, the people who died in this building, 90% of all hauntings are residual. These people are not trapped there. These people have moved on. They've crossed over, but that energy from that trauma is there. The people who died in the war of Vicksburg are not trapped on the battlefield, but it's all residual energy. And this was so strong that I was smelling the smoke, and I had a respiratory situation going on with me for about 3 weeks afterwards because of a residual haunting, and because it was just so heavy and so negative. So that was kind of my moment of reckoning of, wow, this is pretty powerful, even when it's just a residual. So you really, you have to be careful. You have to protect yourself. You have to know what you're doing. And you really need to, take it seriously, because a lot of people will do things, just to try it out. Well, let's see what happens if we do this. And it's just really not a good idea. So, Alex.
I want to ask you something, because
sure.
We're going to circle back a little bit here, but when performing a seance or speaking with the other side and such, it's very draining. And what I want to know is if you experience this as well, because the times that I have opened myself up, it's extremely exhausting. And by the time I'm done, all I want to do is sleep, wake up the next day, just drink tons of water and eat all day. That's how I am after I open myself up.
Well, I would say what I would recommend for that is get some more formal training. If you're going to do mediumship, if you're going to open yourself up for communication, if you feel like that's a path for you, if you feel that Spirit's wanting to use you as a medium, then I recommend taking classes. You need to be properly trained and attuned. It's obviously something you have, but you have to learn how to raise your vibration. You have to learn how to open and close portals properly. You have to learn how to protect yourself, and you have to learn how to raise your vibration properly without getting drained. You should not, because if you keep doing it and getting to that level of using up all your energy to do it, you're going to get sick. And that's where a lot of people make the mistake. And again, it comes with proper training. There's people, and I can, once we're finished with the show, I'll direct you to somebody who does classes over the internet who can help you. And but you need to be sitting in circle. I mean, some of the things that I do as a medium, number one, I constantly further my education. I'm constantly training under other mediums. I also sit weekly. I have a spiritual circle that I sit in circle, and I constantly do what's called sitting in the power. I sit with Spirit. So if you're not doing these things, you're not properly training yourself. I mean, you have to do it. I've been sitting in spiritual mesas and sitting with, in circles, for many, many years now. So, it's just something you have to do. If you don't do it properly, you shouldn't be using your energy. You shouldn't be that tired. It shouldn't be doing that to you. There's something missing if that's what's happening. And I can direct you where to go to help you fix that problem.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Thank you.
Yeah. You don't want to keep doing that, because it will weaken you and it can make you sick. That's the thing. Sickness, any type of physical illness, disease, all of these things, it happens first on an energetic level. And then it manifests on the physical, and that's what people don't realize. So when you're stressing yourself out energetically like that, it will eventually manifest itself as a physical ailment. So you want to make sure that you're doing things properly and that you are protecting your physical vessel, because if you don't, and you also don't want to be opening yourself up to the wrong type of spirit. If you don't understand that other side, that spiritual other side, you don't want the wrong thing walking into you. You really don't want to be opening yourself up to that, and that could be dangerous. You really don't want that. So, because there's also such things as walk-ins and attachments and all of these things that you really don't want to set yourself up for.
Completely agreed. Completely agreed. And that's exactly what I feel like the demon was back at my friend's house. Total attachment.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Who knows? I mean, I wasn't there, but I mean, yeah, that's certainly a scary thing, and it's nothing to play with. It's nothing to dabble with. It's nothing to play with, and you do really have to be careful. But yeah, I don't. Over the years, people would call me and want me to come to their house. You know, I've got something in my house, and usually within the conversation, I could tell, and I would say, "Well, what did you do?" And they'd say, "Well, you know, I was playing with a Ouija board, or I was dabbling with, you know, demonology, and I was doing some spell work, trying to conjure something." And at that point, I just say, "No, I don't want to, I'm not dealing with that." And
Yeah.
you know, I grew up Catholic, so I usually direct people to a Catholic priest, you know, just because that's my spiritual path. You know, there's many different spiritual paths, but the thing is, you know, whatever it is you're dealing with, you know, sometimes there's Native American spirits. Sometimes there's spirits that are attached to the land. Sometimes there's indigenous spirits out here. People will go and they go to, I know that like up around Natchez, you've got, you know, these ceremonial mounds where there's a lot of indigenous spirits attached to those places. And they're not necessarily negative spirits, but they are protective spirits. And anytime you're dealing with, you know, a spirit that is of a particular path, you've got to get somebody, if you get tangled up with one of the spirits, you've got to get somebody of that path to get that off of you. So this is really, it's nothing to fool with. It's nothing to make fun of or take chances with, that's for sure. But that's all of this stuff that we're talking about today is on my 10-foot pole list. Okay, it's like I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. It's like it's not happening. My motto is not my demon, not my problem. I didn't bring it in here. I'm not. You know, I'm not. I don't feel that I'm trained to do it. Now, I'm hoping to have on the show. In fact, I've got some people that are coming on the show that actually are not. You know, that actually will go head on with stuff like this. I'm not one of those people. You know, I feel like that's not something I care to involve myself with, and I tell people, get a professional, get somebody that's trained to deal with this, because it is real and it is dangerous. And I have literally, you know, working in this field for a few decades now, and especially working in the French Quarter. I mean, I have literally seen people eaten alive from the inside out by negative spirits. So it's really, it's not a joke. It can really be dangerous.
And I tend to think to myself, had I not performed the prayers that were given to me to cleanse my home, then it could have gotten so much worse. I believe, definitely emotionally, than it had been. And just to receive that confirmation from my friends when they had come back over and said, "Your house feels so much more open. I don't know what you did to the place." That's when I knew I'm on the right track. I knew
Right, yeah, other people can feel it, sure. Yeah, you don't have to be a medium and all to feel it. We all can sense energy. I mean, you know, we all can feel, you know, whether something feels right or feels weird, you know. So definitely, it's definitely confirmation. But yeah, you know, you're obviously very sensitive to this, and you're obviously you know, somewhat of a medium already. So I would say fine tune what you got, because, you know, you're going to be attracting this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You see,
And
you don't want that. You don't want to attract the wrong thing.
exactly. And the thing is, it's like, for the most part, I've had very positive experiences. I'm very blessed to be able to say I've had way more positive than I have negative. And
That's good.
and even with the property I live on, you had mentioned Native American spirits and such. Well, Vicksburg was a way station during the Trail of Tears, and pretty much we do have quite a bit of occurrences here where people have experienced spirits that could be Native American. And under one circumstance, I had a friend come down, and she was just staying the weekend, and she's Native American. And she's really deep into shamanism and, the whole animal wisdom, animal spirit sort of deal. And she had never set foot on my property before, but her first moment out here, she said, "Oh, I can feel all of my people through these hills in the field. I can feel them here." And I said, "So that's a good thing?" She said, "It's a great thing." So I'm like, "Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you."
Stay tuned for more Scariest Paranormal Radio.
Submitted for your approval. New Orleans. Seductive, magical, mysterious, and haunted. There is no place on this earth with as much ghost and vampire activity as New Orleans. Imagine, if you will, a tour. A tour that takes you to sites in the French Quarter of actual documented hauntings. The Haunted History Tour is just that tour. Every day, every night, all year round. This tour has been featured on ABC, CBS, NBC, and CNN. And it's available to you. Are there ghosts and vampires in the French Quarter? Find out by taking the tour that everyone is talking about. The Haunted History Tour. For more information, call Haunted History Tours at 861-2727. That's 861-2727. This is not a Halloween spook house. This is real.
You're listening to Scariest Paranormal Radio.
Yeah, those Native American spirits, they're not necessarily bad, but they're very protective. And, it's really funny because some of the most haunted places in North America, if you look deep enough in the history, you will find that there's Native American burial grounds associated with it. Or there were Native Americans killed there, or something horrific happened to the indigenous people there. And the more horrific it is, the more haunted it seems to be. And you see these in these most haunted places, and it's like, wow, okay, it's certainly not coincidental. It's definitely not coincidental.
Exactly. And the thing is, you should have no shame in saying, "Hey, this is out of my hand. This is not my territory. I'm not the person for this job. Sorry." And I mean, I've done that before. I hate telling people that, but I'm like, "I'm not your guy. Here's what you can do that would help until you get to a professional." But
Right.
a good thing is knowing your limits. A good thing is knowing your limits.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, I've had people tell me, "Oh, you're scared. You're scared. You just don't want to do it." And it's like, yeah, I'm scared. I don't want to bring that in my house because I'm also aware of. And what people don't realize, people go, "Oh, well, I'll just do a cleanse." What people do not realize is, it's not going to just affect you. It's going to affect the people in your life, the people in your household. So if you have a partner, it's going to affect your partner. If you have pets, it will affect your pets. If you have children, it will affect your children. If there's someone in your home who is not very well, if you have an elderly person, it's going to affect you at your weakest point. And if it can't go through you, it's going to affect someone around you. So, people who are working with this kind of stuff and they're not properly protected, they might go, "Well, it's not bothering me." But then you look around them and it's like, "Oh, your mom's really sick and your uncle's really sick and all of these horrible things are happening around you, and you're constantly saying, 'Pray for me, pray for me, pray for me.'" And it's like, maybe it's these doors you're opening. You see, and people they're not thinking outside of that. And I've seen it. I've seen it in action, and I know. And that was my biggest fear, was that I would bring something home to my child, and I didn't even want my pets exposed to some of this stuff. I felt like my home was my sanctuary, and there were things that I did not want brought into my home. My home is surrounded by crystals. I went up to the crystal mines in Arkansas, and I literally went into the crystal mines and got my own crystals and put them around my home. That keeps my home cleared and clean, because I don't want that stuff here. So I'm not going to go purposely stepping in it. And it's just part of being wise,
Yeah, and
what's that?
It's funny that you mentioned that because there have been times before where I've actually come across stones or rocks, and I don't have a great knowledge behind any of that, but I'll come